Good afternoon, and welcome to the session, How to Be a Rainmaker. It is Monday afternoon, March 30th, and this is the 42nd Annual CALLERLAB Convention. Thank you all for joining us. This session is being recorded, so when you have points to make or comments to make, please make sure you take the microphone and identify yourself as, you identify who you are and where you're from, so that we can get it on the recording for everybody to see. Yay, thank you all for being here. How many have been to this session before? 2 of you, okay. So we're going to cover a lot of the similar material we did before, just to let you know, because we figure each time we do this we have a new audience out there, people who haven't heard it before. So this session is called How to Be a Rainmaker. And my panelist with me is Ken Ritucci, and Ken has some opening remarks.
Good afternoon. Well, just curious, by show of hands quickly, how many here are callers and partners or non-callers? So it's almost mixed, half and half. I think that's great. I know I met Judy today at lunch. She represents an organization out in Kansas, so this is hopefully some good stuff for you. Eric and I have done this session now. This is our 3rd year in a row, and we change it up a little bit. To be a rainmaker, to be somebody who's, in my opinion, a difference maker in the activity. I'm sure all of you in your own areas have people that are movers and shakers, or the ones who simply can't say no, right? They're president of this and representative of that and vice president of this, and they're on 6 committees, and we certainly know what that's like, because I'm one of those people who can't say no, and so is Eric. But because I think we have a passion for the activity, and we just love it so much. People say, well, why do you call so much? Well, we love it. It's something ingrained in us, and I think leaders in the activity are sort of the same way. That as much as we might complain that we're really busy and we can't have time to take something else on, something always comes along and stirs us. And being a rainmaker, in my opinion, is somebody who's not afraid to take chances. And I'll speak from my own experience. I'm not afraid to take chances. A lot of the things I do in calling are call or run. They're run by myself. I'll either start a weekend, or I'll start a group, or I'll do a teach session, or I'll go somewhere and teach a group or something. And it's just something that I take a chance on. Is it always financially to my benefit? No. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is. It depends. But I do it because I have a passion for what I do. And it's not just calling. It's education. It's teaching. I run 5 schools a year, and are all of them always so successful? No, some more than others, but that can change from year to year. You don't know why, but they do. And I'm not afraid to take chances. And as a rainmaker, Eric's going to go through some of the characteristics of that, and I'm going to get up and talk later, and of course we'll take your comments. But it's about being brave enough to go out there and do things, and not be afraid to fail.
Has anyone heard of the term Rainmaker before this session? Yeah, you heard the term Rainmaker, yeah. What does the term Rainmaker mean? Does anybody know what it means? Have you defined it? Anybody have a sense of what it might mean? Anybody want to volunteer? In the law term, it's the guy that goes out and gets the business. Yep, it's actually very accurate. That's exactly what it is in a law firm. So I think the term goes probably back to indigenous times, when a rainmaker was a person who came to, make the rain, trying to sell you something, create something, right? So Webster's defines a rainmaker as a person, as a partner in a law firm, who brings in new business. Also a person who can influence and initiate progress or ensure success. That's what Webster's is. Dictionary.com says it's an influential employee who creates a great deal of business or revenue for his or her firm. The American Heritage says a rainmaker is one who is known for achieving excellent results in a profession or field such as business or politics. So this session is called How to Be a Rainmaker, and really how to be that person that creates something happening specifically around square dancing as opposed to waiting for square dancing to happen to you. And I think what we know, when I talk about that, what we think about is, I'm a caller, but I don't have a club that's hiring me. Or I can't find any dancers. I'm a caller, but there's no dancers, so that's it. But a rainmaker is a person who makes clubs, makes dancers, makes events happen. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of get some insight into that, and maybe you can share some of your experiences as well. So I go through this thing about rainmaking, what a rainmaker is, and I kind of define things in two parts. Now, I'm really glad Ken Ritucci is on this panel. Ken Ritucci is probably the best rainmaker of anybody I know in my entire life, not just in square dancing, but in my entire life. This guy knows how to make anything happen. Truly, I'm not kidding. If you want to go out and do something, you say, "Want how to do it?" Give Ken a call. He'll have some insight into his successes and failures, and Ken is amazing about what he does. But we're going to talk a little bit about a concept called renting versus owning. Some of you own your house. Some of you may rent a house, or maybe you did rent a house, or maybe you did own a house. But you know what I'm talking about, renting and owning. But that's like your house. That's where you live. And you know what renting and owning is? I don't have to explain that to you. But maybe renting and owning applies to something beyond houses. Maybe it applies to how you live your life. We all live our life. We get up and we do what we do. In your life, do you go to do a job? Some people just do their job. Like if they work for a company, they don't really care about it. They have to get through it. They just punch in their 40 hours and they're done, and that's it. What are they doing? They're just renting their job. Somebody gave them a job. They're renting it. They're getting their money paid for it, and they're done. When they go home, they're done. A person who owns their job is someone who either works for a company where they have great responsibility or is self-employed. And that person actually goes out and makes it happen. They know their personal success is dependent upon them going out and doing what it takes, what is necessary to be successful. They're not going to wait for somebody else to do it for them. They're not dependent on somebody else. So we're going to talk about this. So if you take that idea of a job and you apply it to calling, because calling really is a job, isn't it? Okay. So I say a caller is a renter. A caller who is a renter is at effect. So we're going to talk about cause and effect, okay? So renting and owning. So are you a renter or an owner? That's the question I want you to think about for yourself in your calling career. So the caller who is a renter is at effect of the decisions and actions of others, such as clubs and callers, clubs and dancers. He or she is subject to the decisions of the others with minimal ability to influence the outcome. A renter feels like a victim and is powerless to shape and change things. Now, does that ever feel like any other time in your history of being with a club, and if you're calling, that you're like, well, the club hired me, and this is what they did, and this is what they said, and I can't do anything about it because that's just the way it is. Because the club told me, and I can't do anything else. Okay, all right. Smile for the camera. So a lot of us we've all, whether we admit it or not directly, we've all been in that position at some point. We got hired by someone as a club. They say, here are the rules. Here's what we want you to do. Here's how you're going to do it. And you kind of feel like you have no choice and you do it. And you're either successful or you're not, depending on how good you are, what they asked you to do, and whether or not the club had a good plan about what they wanted you to do. A caller who is an owner causes actions to happen and takes responsibility for the outcomes, both good and bad. He or she leads others in a positive way and leverages talents to accomplish a result. An owner is a leader and has the power to shape and change things. It's a very different mindset, especially if you're a caller-run club, you're already there. If you're a caller working for a club, it's a very different mindset to be in that. You say, wow, how do I do that? They hired me. They're running everything. How can I be an owner if they're the ones hiring me? So you have to really think about that a lot. You want to add something to that?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I've been both. I've been club caller for many clubs through the years. Recently gave up a club up in Vermont because it was just like 3 hours one way, and after 8 years going up into the snow, it was just, I got tired of it. But I also have a couple of caller run clubs, which I started. And, when you decide to become an owner of calling and you want to start your own, we're talking for callers right now, could be even for the non-callers. If you want to start a whole new adventure here, start a new organization, start a new campaign, whatever you do, you're taking a risk. It's like you're starting a business. There's no guarantees you're going to be successful. But if you have the tenacity to continue and the strength to move forward and do that, then you're willing to take some lumps along the way, and there will be some bumps. So when you start your own clubs, there's no guarantee. If you start with a square, that's great. Talking to Jim here, I know he had started a club that's been successful, and now it's in a little downturn. But I still encourage you, Jim, that you got to ride the waves. You're going to have the highs and you're going to have the lows. There's peaks and valleys. And I hope that you don't totally give it up, because I know clubs and callers who've had a bad year with their club, and the next year, like, we haven't had a beginner's class in 3 years. Have you ever heard that? But then the next year they got 28 students out of the blue, but through hard work, of course. But if everyone gave up quickly after 1 or 2 or 3 years, where would we be in anything in society? So that's the downfall. That's the chance we take when we decide to become owners as opposed to renters. It's easy to be renters. I know a lot of callers who are renters throughout their whole calling career. They're very successful, some of the biggest names in the industry. They're excellent at what they do, but they really don't take any chances. They basically they take everything that's given to them and they ride the waves, and they're good at it, and good for them. But there's others who are just as successful that have worked on their own to do things and work with it that way, and they're not afraid to take chances. And that's the decision you have to make. It's not easy to want to step out on your own. It's scary. And then and usually there's a financial cost involved. Well, if I want to start a new club, I've got to come up with a flyer. That's going to cost me money. I got to rent a hall. That's going to cost me money. I've got to advertise. That's going to cost me money. All the while not knowing what's coming in the door. You may get a square. You may get 8 squares. I run caller schools. I don't know every year if I'm going to have 25 students or 5. I don't know. As the time gets closer, I have a better idea of what I'm going to end up with. But I make the brochures up. I rent the halls. I do the advertisement. I hire the staff. I'm responsible for bringing in professionals that I have to pay or want to pay. And all the while not knowing how many I'm going to have. It's a black hole sometimes. I'm just either crazy or what. I'm not afraid to take chances, because if we only had renters, whether it's calling or non-calling, just think of all the people that work hard in our activity, that run organizations and all the things that you do that the callers and queuers don't do. If we only had renters and people that just rode on everyone's piggyback because you do all the work and I'll just be there to help you, then we wouldn't have an activity. Okay? We need inventors. We need people to take chances along with the renters. We need owners and we need renters.
So I put together a list of some ideas about this thing. Okay, so owners, they have control over, have power or mastery over, they're responsible for oneself, and are independent of outside help or control. So I'm going to run through a list of things that I think employees are and what entrepreneurs are. So think about that, between employees and entrepreneurs. So if an employee, right, paid by someone else, the pay rate is determined by others, the hours and program are determined by the employer, the continuity of work is determined by others, whether or not you have a job next week, right? The employee distances himself if the business fails. Like, yep, it didn't work out. It wasn't my fault. It was theirs. They must wait for employment action by others and thinks tactically only as far as the next gig he or she is hired for. So if you're thinking, okay, I got this gig, and this club will hire me next week, and this club will hire me, that's as far as I'm thinking. Now, entrepreneurs.
Sure, an entrepreneur is, well, they're paid by themselves. Anytime a caller does something, I'm paying myself, or in some cases, I'm not paying myself. Determines their own pay rate. Again, it depends on what happens, the results of your efforts. Determines their own hours and program. I set up my own hours, my own program. If I decide to start a caller school, I decide when I want to do it, what days of the week I want to do it, what times I want to do it, how long I want to do it, how short I want to do it, where, all types of things come into play for that. Controls how much or how little he wants to work. Do I want to do it or not? I mean, do I want to work hard at doing what I just decide to do? Do I want to put a lot of hours in it, or I just want to do it, maybe halfway? It depends. It's your choice. And I take responsibility for the failures. Like I had just briefly mentioned, I run a caller school. If I don't get many students or get enough to cover my expenses, but we do hold the school, well, there are still expenses. If I bring in 1 or 2 professional caller coaches to help me run the school, and we run the school, well, they get paid. And they get paid, and the hall gets paid, and you still have to pay your expenses. Does not wait for others, takes initiative to create his own work. Well, I guess you all know by now that that's what we do as owners. We're not afraid to take chances. And you think strategically how the programs will build over time. There's going to be another session after this called the Blast class, but I also take the initiative of running a lot of Blast classes. Again, I'm taking a chance. How many are going to show up? Are you going to have enough to make it work? Are you going to be able to pay your expenses? But many times when you do those kinds of things, you may teach a group, and then they'll say, well, this is all well and good, but where do we go dance this? What do we do with this later? You've given us something, but what do I do with it? Well, then you have to start thinking strategically down the road. What am I going to do with this group? Do I just let it drop and die in the vine? Or do I create something out of it? A weekend that Eric and I do now in Indiana in the fall, an A2 weekend, was the result of a Blast class that I did 3 years ago, and now we give the people a place to dance. So that's a perfect example of thinking strategically and thinking further down the road. If you're going to make the decision to do something, think about the consequences of what you're going to do with the results. If it's successful, how do you carry it over? Do you tweak it? Do you not do anything at all? Sometimes it's a one and done deal. So there's a lot of factors involved. It's not just the moment. The moment's important, but what happens beyond the moment?
So what Ken is critical about this. You got to listen to everything Ken says because he's done all this before. He is that good. And so for a lot of you, so he runs caller schools and he runs Blast classes. But maybe for a lot of you, you think about maybe beginner class or starting a club. How would that work? How can I do that? How can I make that happen? How can I get dancers there? I'm a caller. How do I get dancers? That's really the big issue, right? And so you got to think of that in a couple different ways. If you're creating a class, you got to get people who are not dancers to come join square dancing. In one sense, that's kind of easier because there's a large body of people out there who don't square dance, right? Now, if you already want to start a group with people that already square dance, then you have a much smaller body to draw from, but you can do that as well. So there are a lot of things to think about when you're doing that. Like Ken says, you got to take responsibility for it. You got to be the one to hire the hall or to rent the hall, to put the advertising together, to figure out the night to do it, to make sure you play well with others. That is to say, if you're going to do a group, you don't want to be doing something in a way that's going to really annoy the other dance groups out there because nobody wins by stepping on everybody else, especially in this small pool. Most callers fall somewhere between the two extremes between renter and owner. They're somewhere in between, and it's like there's no hard and fast one way or the other. But there's parts of each that apply to each of you. And I guess what this session is about is stimulating your thinking to think, where can I take responsibility and be that owner instead of waiting for somebody else to do it for me? Okay, so here's a question. If you do something, how do you know if you're successful? How do you know? Does anybody have a measurement for success? Any ideas? Anybody? If you run a class, if you run a club, do you have any measurement for success? Huh? What? How the result is. So specifically, what result are you looking for if you ran a class?
In that case, numbers starting and numbers ending, and hopefully both are high.
Numbers starting and numbers ending, and you hope that both are high. Okay. Well, let's say you ran a beginner class. We start in, let's say, September. How unusual. And you have 20 people start the class, and let's say you graduate them in May at mainstream, okay? And you have 20 people graduate. Is that successful? Okay. And let's say 3 months later they drop out of square dancing, they don't join the club. Then it's not successful. So here's the question I'm asking, is that what do we consider successful in square dancing? This is very important because I think for a lot of us, especially if you've been dancing a long time, we consider it to be successful if that person becomes a lifetime square dancer. We think of that because we've been lifetime square dancers, right? No matter when it started, we're lifetime committed. But not everybody's going to be a lifetime square dancer, right? We know some people get in the activity for 2, maybe 3 years, and then they move on to something else, right? So are we not successful because they were in the club for only 3 years? Think about that for a second. I go through this question with my clubs that I work with because they consider if the beginners don't join the club and last forever, then why run the class? Well, okay, that's one way of thinking about it. How about they were in the class and they joined the club for a year, and even though they moved on after that, we had them for 2 years. That's great. That's kind of cool. Now, if you start thinking about things that way, that dancers are going to come and they're going to be with you for a while and have a good time, and then they may move on to something else. If you think that way and you're okay with that, then you know you just got to keep getting more dancers in the door, right, to replace the ones who move on to something else. And you can redefine success as being something like, I've got a good flow of dancers through here. Every year I get X number of new people, or every year I've got these people who've danced at least a year, so I'm successful. They didn't drop out after a week. So rethinking that model that they have to be lifetime dancers is very important, especially if you're the one who's running the show. If you're running the show and every week you got to get up there and you got to teach a class or move the club through, you have to make sure that you're running in accordance with what you think is successful. Because if you don't think that, then all of a sudden you're going to find out a year from now or 2 years from now when you lose half those people to bowling, you're going to feel very discouraged. But if you already knew in advance that they may not last forever, you just got to keep running classes, get more people in there. Then you say, this is okay. I'm doing all right. I own the success of my workshop because I've defined success to be this way. It's a very important mindset about that. Okay? Here's another model. What if none of your dancers ever graduated? What if they never graduated? In other words, you finished teaching them the call, and they just kept dancing. All right? Because you know the issue. You guys have seen the issue. People go through, they graduate, and then they're gone, right? Because they've checked that box off their bucket list, and they're moving on. So one thing to think about is that, you can run your groups and say, that's great. You guys having a good time. Keep coming back every week. Whatever it might be. And by the way, bring your friends. Always push for that. But really think about that model where dancers don't last forever. Although we like them to, they may not. Because the reality of this world is there's a lot of things out there competing for their attention. All right, so all this sounds great. So I know you guys can walk out the door tomorrow and you can start a beginner class with 100 people in it, right? Right? Right, all right. So my question is, what's stopping you? All right, so here's some ideas.
All right, what is stopping you? Okay. Well, you tried to run a class, but nobody came.
That ever happened? Oh my
Ever hear that before?
Oh my goodness.
Well, we've tried for the last 3 years, and we just can't get anybody, so we give up. Okay? Can't get any angels. Some people might think that's a good thing. Okay? That's a whole nother discussion I won't get into. But can't get any help, let's just say. Can't get help. No one will hire me. I hear that a lot, especially from the newer callers. Ken, I've been calling now for 5 years, and I'm working hard. I've been to schools, and I do this, I do that, and I'm just not getting hired. And that's an individual basis by basis. Each caller is different. Each locale where they live is different. There are still, we used to see it more years ago, but there are still that territorial rights among callers that they don't like, or they don't really go out of their way to welcome newer callers in the area because they pose that as a threat to take business from them. Sorry to say, but that's the truth. So that hurts newer callers. Or sometimes it could just be that maybe that caller's just not ready to be hired yet. That some callers do reach a peak, and they just aren't really ever going to be maybe a club caller, but that doesn't mean that they can't do fun nights. They can't do one-night stands. There's things that people can do. Belief system that I can't compete against the computer or other activities at home. Well,
how many of you believe that? Huh? How many of you believe you cannot compete against the internet? Really? I bet some of you to some extent believe that. All right?
I believe that. Jim Wright, Leawood, Kansas. I do believe that one of the reasons that we have an issue getting people in is because of the internet, the television, the phone, games. I do believe that that is an issue as a shift in society. That doesn't mean I blame it for me not being able to get people in, if that makes any sense.
okay. Any other comments on that? Sure. Just tell us where you're from.
Barry McCombs, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. If you can't lick 'em, join 'em. Use that internet to promote your club. Amen.
Social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, online calendars. These are the things now that we need to sort of attack the system. We need to fight the fight. And technology is not going away. If anything, it's just going to get faster and faster. And, we either keep up or we die. So why not use it? If you can't beat them, join them. I agree. No place for the beginners to go after they complete a class, okay? So I don't use that as an excuse because I look at that as an opportunity. Okay, they don't have a place to go. I taught these people. What do I do with them? Start a club. Or don't start a club, but start a group. It doesn't have to be a club. Call or run. There's your opportunity. Just let them come to the dance and pay. Let them come to the evening. Maybe do a weekly workshop, whatever you want to do. But have something for them to keep going to. Don't say, oh, I'll just give them to another club. Well, why? You did all the work. Don't do that. Don't back down. Unrealistic expectations of club leaders. For example, dancers must get from 0 to plus in a set time frame. Eric lives in a state where that's basically the mentality, that they have to dance, the callers have to teach all the way through plus. I'll let him speak more on that, but I do enough calling out in California, and when you go out there, it's just a plus dance. I mean, there's no mainstream. If there is, it's creeping in very slowly, but I've always just called a plus dance because that's all there is plus. And it's pretty hard for those callers to teach dancers from 0 to plus in one season. And I also have heard stories on more than one occasion, and Eric can probably elaborate more. Clubs will tell callers, if you don't get them through plus, we will get somebody who will.
Has that happened to anybody else? Anybody else had a push where the club just says you must get them through mainstream or through plus in 6 months? You got to get them through there in 6 months. Or 10 weeks or whatever it is. And you think, well, really, that's what we're about, is shoving calls down their throats, right? I don't think so. I thought we were about having fun. Yeah, it's challenging in that thing. I want to go back to the thing about competing against a computer or the internet or anything else. If you believe that you really can't compete against it, then you should hang your hat up now, because, as just Ken said, the technology is there. It's going to keep getting there. It's going to be more and more a part of our life. Every little thing we do, technology is going to be there. People still want to go out and do something. They still want to go to a movie. They still want to go bowling. They still want to play tennis. They still want to go square dancing. They still want to go out and do something. So you can't use, and I'm preaching to the choir here probably, but you can't use something like that. Well, because of that, they don't want to come square dancing. Well, you know what? People still want to come out and do something social. And if you provide the right product, the right social product in square dancing, they're going to want to come out and do that with you. So it's a mindset. It's all a mindset, There are people who tell me, hey, do you see such and such a show? And I say, no. And I don't tell them why, because I'm calling that night. That's my club night. I don't see that show on TV because, and I choose not to. If I want to watch it later, I could. But, you just choose what you do. There's a lot of choices in life, and people make their choices. So here's the thing. So how do you become better at being a Rainmaker? How do you become better at starting your own class, starting your own club? How do you do that? That's a question, right? The $64,000 question. Used to be the $64 question, if you're old enough. Does anybody remember that? The $64 question. So here's the thing. All of you have a talent, at least one talent, and that talent is calling, right? Or partners of callers. You know what square dancing is, right? You have that talent. So you've got that talent. So you've got some strengths in that area. What can you do? What can you do to be the best you can be in what you're doing in doing a class? So think about that for a second, right? So if you're a caller, you know how to call square dancing. If you're a teacher, you know how to teach square dancing, right? If you're a singer, you know how to sing. If you're an organizer, you know how to do the logistics to put a square dance together. Renting a hall, the advertising, whatever it takes, right? So here's the question I want you to ask yourself. What are your 3 best selling points about yourself? What are your 3 best selling points? What is it you personally do well? Think about that. What do you do really well that you think is something you can leverage to go out there and make something happen? Because you can't be everything. Very few callers are everything. Even the best callers aren't the best at everything. They're at best at some things, but not everything. So if you're not a strong singer, plenty of us are not strong singers, are you good at teaching? Can you think of a very famous caller who's not a good singer but really good at teaching? He was in the hallway a little while ago. Very good. How about what if you're not a brilliant choreographer? Like you kind of call simple mainstream modules or whatever it might be, and that's okay. It works. But are you good with people? Do you have good people skills? Like people like you because you're warm and friendly, and they just like to come and see you every week. So they don't care. You can do simple modules and boxes and mainstream material. It's fun, easy and simple, because you're a good people person. And if you're not a site caller, if you don't know how to do with site calling, but are you good with your organization? Are you good with just putting things together? You can organize all your routines together. You can organize a whole package together and provide a good evening of entertainment for your dancers. Can you do that? So look at the things you're strong at. Don't worry about trying to be everything to everybody, because that just doesn't work. Ken's a good example of that. It was just too quiet in here. I'm sorry. So think about that. So I want you to think about that. I want some suggestions. Somebody come up and tell me 2 or 3 things they're really good at. I really want you to say it because I want you to think about that, how you can do that for square dancing. Okay, Brian?
Well, I'm Brian Freed from Bloomington, Minnesota. I guess one of my strong suits is social media, and I can design websites. It's what I do. So that, and I did start my own club a year ago, or a year and a half ago. It's called Sunday Squares. I don't know if I was getting hired, and I still get hired by the clubs in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Iowa to call, but I just wanted to have a place where I could call every month, because that's the only way you get better as a caller, is that, you do your practice. So I had the opportunity to get a church gym on Sunday afternoons, so we got that, and the rest is history, I guess. We started out with 1 or 2 squares, and usually 3 to 4. It kind of depends on what else is going on. Usually I don't compete against anybody, but once in a while during the year there'll be another dance on a Sunday.
Did you start your own class then?
No, I haven't done a class yet. I just did my own club, yeah.
There's an old saying, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So it's all about attitude. And come on up, someone else. Another not about Brian here.
Tell me 1 or 2 good things that you do well. Come on up.
Ted, come on up. Another thing quickly about Brian is starting to record singing calls. But Brian is making an effort out on his own to record singing calls. And what does that do? Gets Brian's name out there. You know the old adage, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Ted?
My name is Ted Clements, and I'm from Vado, New Mexico. That's way down close to El Paso. I call for clubs down there in that area. I actually call for 4 different clubs. Personally, I think I'm a very good teacher. If you try to explain it and someone doesn't get it, then I will explain it a little different way. In fact, one of the people from one of my clubs the other night wrote in the newsletter that they're still learning things every time they come to one of my lessons, and they've been dancing for years and years because, and these were their words, Ted will explain it a little bit differently, and all of a sudden the light comes on.
Now, you don't call for 4 clubs without being successful. So Ted is doing something right, and he acknowledges that, well, I'm a good teacher. You know what? You are a good teacher. You're teaching for 4 clubs? 4 clubs. 4 clubs. That should tell you something right there. Okay? Sean, come on up. He's a young kid from the Pittsburgh area. And
Tell us something you do well and what works.
I know Sean. I've heard him call, and he's going to be one of the best someday if you work hard and stay at it.
I'm Sean Brown from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I run 2 clubs. I have 2 Call Run clubs. 2 I run with my father, and 1 with my father and Lisa Minton. I'm in the process of starting my own club because I've gotten some interest recently, and I've been learning how to teach his new system. So I'm getting fairly good with that. I guess I could sing pretty well, and I've been practicing call and patter and getting better at that every day.
And you do singing calls. You do singing calls with your father.
Oh yeah, I record on Gold Rush Records. You know, but me and my dad. Well, actually, I'm the co-producer of Gold Rush Records at the moment, and.
Sean's doing a lot. And how old is Sean? 18? 18 years old. 19 years old. Give him a big hand. Very nice. Yeah. Who else wants to come up and share something? Come on.
I can't read your name. Wayne?
Come on up, Wayne. Everybody has something. And you know what? Brian just, a light went off my head. Brian just says, well, I'm really good with the internet. I create websites. Well, what if there was somebody in this room right now that said, our organization needs a new website? As a caller, I don't have a website. I need somebody who can produce a website. Bingo. You can go right to somebody right then and there. So, I mean, it's a network. We don't have to do all this alone. We have friends. We can't do everything, but we know people who know people who know people, and that's how it works.
My name is Wayne Lorenzen. I'm from Omaha. Stuff that I'm good at. After years of voice lessons, I still have a decent voice, and my wife really enjoys listening to me sing, and she's probably my deepest critic. I don't call a lot of dances, but that's okay. My wife and I have talked about how many dances I should be calling a year. But the dances that I call, the dancers have fun, and that's what I measure as success. My dancers have fun at a dance. I do a lot of lessons. I've got 1 club up there that I do lessons for, and we have a great retention rate. The dancers have fun during lessons, and everybody that I've talked to that's been through the lessons or has been an angel insists that I'm doing an excellent job teaching.
See, again, teaching. It all comes down to teaching, because if we don't teach properly, then we don't have strong dancers, do we? We can have I know a lot of great callers. Some of them just can't teach. I know a lot of great teachers, and that's what they do.
My name is Barry Hendricks. I'm the 3rd best caller from Arlington, Texas. There's a couple of more there, and I talk to them honorably and respectfully. You have good organization, first of all, engineer by education. And one of the things that I've done that's made a lot of contacts for me is I was involved in the programming of the 96 convention in San Antonio, and I did the 2006 convention in San Antonio. Got to know people like Eric and a lot of other folks. I've done 7. I did 7 state festivals until they got tired of me. I'm a fairly good singer, I think, and my club thinks so, and even my wife thinks so. But one of the things that I've worked for 2 clubs in the 30 years I've been calling. First one fired me after 7 years because they found somebody else they thought they liked better. Those people ask me back now to do their Valentine's special every year. The club that I call for today, I've been calling for 18 years, And I'm more of an owner in that club today than I am a renter, even though it's a dancer-run club. But when it comes time to a new cure, I get input. I tell them who I'd rather not work with. That always works. If they have a president coming in I don't feel like I can work with, that candidate goes away. So I'm more of a owner in that club than I am a renter, even though they set my pay and all that.
Okay, notice how he used the terms owner and renter. I like that.
My name is Andreth Davis. I'm from Salida, Colorado. And my strength is I'm kind of the head cheerleader. It takes cheerleaders, doesn't it? Partners, yes. And I'm the cheerleader for my club, for square dancing, for our caller instructor, for the sport in general. And as a result, I've only been dancing for 4 years, but as a result, I'm the promotional chairman, publicity person, et cetera, for the Colorado State Festival this year. It's our 60th anniversary, and we're really proud of it. And can you tell what I'm good at? I could sell anything, including square dancing to teenagers, and I love it. My goal is to help people have fun. It doesn't matter how they do it. If they come into our door, they're going to have fun. I'm going to make them glad they came and want to come back, because I set out to have fun myself. And if you have fun, they're going to have fun. That's the whole goal of all of this. If it isn't fun, just forget it, because this has got to be fun. Thank you.
She's a Rainmaker. Give her a big hand. Very nice. And she's not a caller, but you don't have to be a caller to be a Rainmaker. We got people in this room that are not callers that are Rainmakers. She's a clear example of that. She is a mover and a shaker, and she does what she does best. We can't all do everything. We need people to help us with other aspects of this activity. Anyone else want to share anything? No? No, I don't want to pick on anyone, but anyone else? You want to say something? Come on.
I've been in the square dance world for 33 years. Yes, I'm Rita Foster from Willow Springs, Missouri, and we went from school to the senior citizens and all around teaching classes for years. We built our own dance studio. It's in my backyard. It has 3,000 square feet of hardwood floor. It's a dream place to come. We live on 40 acres. We have dance parties, but our club went from having 100 members to no club. We have no club now, so we are not. We just, my husband calls. He started the year that we learned to square dance 33 years ago. He picked it up and went to calling, and we've been at the state festivals. We've done nationals. I teach line dancing. I teach clogging, swing, two-step, hip-hop, all that. We try to keep and do all the upbeat music for all the kids and everything, but we cannot get anybody interested in it. And we have, like I say, we have promoted square dancing for 33 years. We have a street festival that we do. We set up all of our equipment. We line dance, we clog, we sing, we square dance for the whole day for free. And we cannot get one single dancer to come. They love watching us do it, but want to come out to do it. So, but I had a group of girls that I competed with all over the United States. 12 of us went, little girls competed in clogging, and then we've square danced at the nationals and everything. We've seen that. We picked that up. We did the country western. We picked that up. I do have at least 30 students a week in the line dance, and then they stay for the couples class. But we've just seen it decline. There was nothing, in the early 90s, 100 people a night. Yeah. So we just keep it declining, and we're saying, how can we get it back up? And it's not like that we haven't promoted it, because my husband has. Everywhere we went, we, promoted the dance industry everywhere. So, yeah, we used to dance on Club Dance and down in Knoxville and Nashville. Smithsonian Magazine, 1997, we were in the center cover of Smithsonian Magazine in '97. They came from Washington D.C. and did an article on our dance studio and how we did the 45 records still, and they thought that was all cool. Went to Birmingham that year, so. But we've promoted it everywhere we've went, so.
So you have two rainmakers there. You have the husband and the wife, and line dancing and calling and teaching, built their own facility, have their own facility. So how do we measure success now? She's a good example. Well, we had 100 members, now we have none. We've tried this all-day demo fair thing, all different types of music, kids, contras, lines, and we just haven't been able to get people back. What we also need to be aware of is that, yes, I think all of us can remember the glory days of the huge crowds, but now we have to start thinking differently. You know, we're fighting a different environment. There wasn't the technology back then that there is now. The homesteads were different, and the family environments were different. But so, okay, you're not going to have 100 people, but maybe the next year she gets 10 people or 15 people, and then sometimes we overlook that and we just say, oh, we used to have 100, I only had 10. But instead of looking at it as glass half empty, we should look at it as half full and say, you know what, forget about the past. Yes, those were the glory days. Everyone here could probably reminisce about the glory days, but you know what, we're not living in the glory days. So you look at, wow, I got 10 or 15 people now. We're starting to build again. Yep.
I forgot to tell you that we do a Monday Madness. That's what we called it. We have like 60 people, 60, 70 people, but we only do it once a month. So they will come once a month. We were doing it every Monday night. And, you know, we wouldn't even have a square. And so then we just went to one night a month. And everybody puts it on their calendar that they're coming, like party. And we don't graduate anybody. We teach square dance, and then we'll do lines and right back and forth. And so that works for us once a month. And so we love it. We do reels and lines and everything, and the kids all love it. We have a lot of young kids, you know, from here up. They bring their families. The homeschool lady, she's just having her 12th one. So, you know, when they come, there's like, okay, we only need 12 of you guys. Come on over. And this group comes, and there's 12 over here. Now we got 24. We got 3 squares now, so.
Okay, so she's got great success. Once a month, she gets 60 to 70 people that show up, have a great time. Now, do we look at it as half full, saying, that's wonderful, that is great, that really is great? Or are we going to look at it as half empty and say, well, yeah, but nobody's taking lessons. She tried it every week. It doesn't work. They won't come. Well, forget about that. You're still planting seeds, and you have all different ages. And one of these days, you know, maybe your husband starts another small, you know, set of lessons, and some of these people, even if you got 8 of them, then, you know, they might splinter off. You never know. You do lessons.
Yes, that Monday night we do lessons. The people all come, and we start. And like if you come in that night and you didn't know how to square dance at all, we would teach you circle left, circle right, and you would be included in that, and you would not be excluded as a non-dancer. And by the time you left, we were already circling. We've done singing calls. My husband does singing calls, and he does Elvis, and you know, and he's just having we have a good time. Yeah, that's the way it is. But we do teach. We just don't ever graduate.
Okay. Okay, so you don't graduate them, but yet you're teaching, and yet let's look at the format you're doing. What you're doing is successful, okay? Unfortunately, many times we put that into the whole big picture of square dancing and say, well, it's not successful because they're not producing graduates to go out and dance with other clubs. Well, you know what? That is what it is. But what you're doing is successful.
It is. It is, and she's redefined what that success looks like. Right. So let's think about this. If you want to be a rainmaker, let me turn this up a little bit. If you want to be a rainmaker, though, you need to figure out what you want to do. What is successful? What is successful? And you need to set those goals. You say, I want to be a rainmaker. I want to be successful. I want to go out and create something. I'm going to go create a beginner class. I'm going to go create a line dance class. I'm going to go start a club and attract dancers. What is that goal you want to do? Where do you want to go with this thing? And so figure out what that is and set that. And you've got to set a specific measurable goal, Sean. Okay? Just thought I'd pick your name out there. Type of goals. It's good for college too. Goals. You know. So when you do goals, you sit down. You say, I want to have 10 10 dancers by a year from now. You know, say, well, 10 dancers, that's not too many. You know, it's not too many square dancers if you want to get 10. And like Ken says, never look back, always look ahead, always look forward. So what are you going to do to accomplish that? And what are you offering? I mean, you have a great program. You have a lot of different things you can offer in your program. But what are you going to offer to get those people in there? What makes it attractive to potential dancers? Use the CALLERLAB resources for this. CALLERLAB's got great resources to start something. There is a whole library of documents on winning ways. Y'all know what winning ways is? Anybody not know what winning ways is? Winning ways, ever heard of this? Nobody knows? Blank looks. Winning Ways is a collection of documents from clubs who have run classes and groups that have been very successful. And so they document how they did it. They said, man, we did this thing, bang, bang, bang. We got 150 people to show up to our beginner class. Use that. CALLERLAB has a wealth of resources in this thing. So they got a lot of the stuff coming out of Frisco, Colorado, which is not Salida, I know that, but, you know. Yeah, Timberline Toppers, yeah. But a lot of people contributed throughout the country into this. So use that. Make sure you get to that. Learn about marketing techniques. Find out somebody knows something about marketing. Ken knows a lot about marketing. They're professional marketers. Mike Hogan, the caller Mike Hogan, who is a caller here and is on the Board of Governors, he is a marketing person by profession. This is what he does. He markets. So pick the brains of those. But when you see them in the hallway, pick their brains. They love to tell you information. You know, talk to other people, network, find out what you can about marketing techniques. You know, if you want to, join the CALLERLAB Marketing Committee. They got some great ideas going on there about actually getting the word out about square dancing to let people know that we exist. In your case, you got a place to dance, you got a caller, you're all ready to go as soon as they walk in the door. Man, 3,000 square foot hardwood floor. Oh man, I'm drooling over that.
I gotta get there.
That's good. That's good. All right. So, you know, find out from other people, what do they do to be successful in their businesses? You know, don't try to recreate the wheel. Just as someone told me many years ago, plagiarize, let nothing evade your eyes. So go out there and find out, you know, you got a great success story. I'm going to use that right here in California, I think, you know. So I'll take everything I can from somebody else. Don't try to recreate it. And don't think that yours is a better idea. You just take everything from everybody else who's got something going on. You use that, okay? Brainstorm with every other caller you run into. Brainstorm with them. Say, hey, what about this? What about that? And if you got another caller in your area who's also doing something, don't think of that caller as competition. Think of that caller as cooperation. So that remember, in any given group, only 0.0001% of the people square dance, right? That means everybody else is a potential market. So you got to embrace the theory of what we call the theory of abundance. You know the theory of abundance? There's two theories, theory of scarcity and theory of abundance. Theory of scarcity says there's hardly anything out there, so I need to hoard what I have. And the theory of abundance is there's lots of stuff out there, so everybody can have some, right? And this isn't just square dance, this is everything in life, right? You know, do you have the theory of scarcity, which means I got to hold on to what I have, I can't let go, whatever it is, my secrets or my possessions. But the theory of abundance is there's plenty out there for the whole world. I can have a whole lot. You can have a whole lot. You can have a whole lot. There's plenty of it. Embrace the theory of abundance because we know there is abundance out there. There are 300 million people in the U.S. right now who don't square dance yet. That's a lot of people. So, you know, we just got to go out and get them, pretty much. All right, so you're going to go find those people. The other callers are your working partners. They're not your competition. Some people think of them as being competition, but they're not. They're your partners. They're your complement. And the two of you and the other callers make fun. You create fun, and you got to create that fun for people to see there's fun, so they're going to be attracted and want to come into this. Everything is about the fun. It's our job, but for the dancers, it's fun. It's got to be creating fun all the time. I said embrace technology in all of its current popular forms and look ahead. Not just the current social media of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and I'm blanking the other ones right now. But use all those. We already talked about those. But what's the next thing around the Snapchat, whatever the next social media thing? Find what those things are. Use them even if you don't know what they are right now. Ask your kids. Ask your kids or your grandkids, depending on who you are. And don't be afraid. Do not be afraid of technology. Y'all know what Luddites were, right? They were. Was a guy named Luddite? Was his name Luddite or was his name Ludd or something like that? I think it was Ludd. His name was Ludd. So they were in the early 1800s, and they were the weavers union. They did all the weaving, hand weaving, and then the machines. They were doing hand weaving, and then the weaving machines came in, to mechanize the process of weaving. And of course, they all protested. All the weavers protested against it, and they were really upset. And they did not embrace the technology of the weaving machine. And so it became known as Luddites. And that's where you get the term Luddite, is one who does not embrace the new technology. They smashed them? They smashed the weaving looms, right, because, of course, it takes jobs away, right? You can do that, but it's sort of like still claiming the earth is flat, you know? It's not going to change anything. You know, the earth is not flat. That's just the way it is. If you say, well, technology is horrible and I think it's bad and whatever, well, great, you can have that opinion. It's not going to change it. Technology is here. You might as well ride the horse in the direction he's going and go with it all the way. Don't fight it. Don't buck it. Get on top of it and go with it. And if you don't know how to get on top of it, go get someone who does. You don't have to know all the answers. I call my daughter a lot, let me tell you. And I'm not that old. I call her a lot sometimes. I say, help me, I'm thinking about whatever. And so I get some ideas from her. Consider alternative programs. We don't have to be locked into, especially if you're creating your own class, you don't have to be locked into the traditional model of running a beginner class from 0 to 68, a mainstream program. You got to get them all through in 9 months. Like, that's the way the club's always done it. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that because you're doing something different, right? Right. So, what if you ran an ABC program? You all familiar with the ABC program? And now there's a talk for the sustainable square dancing to do a 1 to 50 program, the Club 50 program. So there's talk about that as well. So look at alternative programs out there, something different that, what your objective is. What's your objective? Get boots on the floor. You want to get those dancers in the floor, standing, coming back every week, smiling, having a good time. And really, it doesn't matter what they learn, does it? It doesn't matter at all what they learn. You just care that they come back every week and have a good time. That's a Rainmaker. You made it happen. You created something happen. You're like that law partner who brought in the business. You're bringing in the business. You may redefine the business, right? It's not going to look like the business we had before, maybe. It may look different, but you're getting the business in there, okay? Create a network of clubs and callers in your region, right? Who are the other clubs and callers in your region? Make sure you're tied in with your Dancers Association and your Callers Association. Talk to them. Proactively connect with them. Talk to them. Hey, Ken, how's that beginner class going? I got a class going. What are you doing? Here's what I'm doing for promotion. We put some postcards out. What did you do for that thing? What do you got going? Hey, maybe we can do like that. Remember, we're not competing. We're working. We're complementing each other because he may have 10 dancers. I may have 10 dancers. We're not competing for those 10 dancers. We're trying to get the other 40,000 that live in our town. That's what we're trying to get to, right? So we're trying to double those numbers. So talk to the other callers in the area. Find out what's going on, what's working for them. Find out what's working, what's not working, and be honest. This is the part where you got to be honest. This works for me, and I tried this, and it didn't work for me. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try it again. But I get so many callers who, how's things going? Oh, things are great, and then you give it, the BS meter starts going up and up and up, and you start thinking, you're not really giving me a true answer here. You really want to get. What's going on? Let's talk personally. Hey, what's working? What's not working? What do you suggest? What do you think all the way around? That's what you want to get from networking with other callers. Because there's no reason why every caller couldn't start his or her own group, rent a hall. You've already got insurance. That's all taken care of, right? Find a hall to rent, start your own class, advertise on the internet, advertise in the paper, get a class going. You might get 3 people to show up. You might get 10 people to show up. And you might get 50 people to show up. You don't know. We've had all those kinds of successes in our area for just exactly what I said right there. Come up with fun social events to complement the square dancing time. The Timber Toppers were good at this one. They had the chili cook-offs or chili cooks or whatever it was, the whole thing there. What is it that complements the square dancing? Square dancing is fun. We love square dancing. It's really cool. But people want more than that. They want to complement that. One of my groups has round dancing, right? So we have round dancing as part of it. We have pre-rounds and rounds between tips. Does your group go out and have spaghetti feeds? Does it have a potluck night? Does it have a mystery bus tour? Does it have a go fishing on Bass Lake trip? I don't know. What are the things? After the dance? Do you go to the pizza parlor and have pizza and beer? There was a whole session on social glue. Anybody go to the social glue sessions? Social glue, how we define social glue. That's stuff that keeps the club together. It's like, yeah, we square dance together, but then afterwards I'm talking to Barry, I'm talking to Brian, talking to everybody out there saying, hey, let's get together, what's going on, and let's go have a beer or some pizza, or, hey, you wanted to go take a trip down to the Bass Pro Fish Shop? This is the world headquarters here in Springfield now. I'm not kidding. So it's a cool shop if you get down there, right? But that's the kind of stuff that creates that social bonding, right? so that you have, yeah, we had square dance, we square danced together, we had a good time. Now we're going to go do this, and we're all friends. Then we're going to come back next week because I want to see you guys because we're all friends, right? So that's that social glue. Create those activities that keep people coming back. So it's very important to do that. Create that social glue. And there's a whole session on social glue that's separate from that. Do you want to add anything else to that for becoming a Rainmaker?
I guess teamwork. Don't try to go it alone. It's too big. You need to work with people. And the other thing is the image that you might create too. If you shun other callers or other organizations or such, they may misread that. Or if you, maybe you're not shunning them on purpose, but people might misinterpret that and say, oh, they think they're better than us, or they're going to do their own thing. But everybody needs everybody. I mean, I know in our area, the caller associations meetings, when they're even held, aren't as big as they used to be. It used to be a big deal to go to your caller association meeting, and you'd have a little education seminar, a record swap. There'd be all types of things, refreshments. It'd be an all-afternoon thing and a lot of fun. You get to meet all the experienced callers. You get to meet the new callers. Now, in the part of the country I live up in New England, most of the associations, if they do exist, they don't meet, or they meet once a year. It's really tough. So even though that glue of staying together as an organization might be unraveling in certain parts of the country for callers or maybe you dancers, if you're going to start becoming an owner and trying some things, you got to weather the storm. You just have to wait it out. And then you learn from your mistakes. I mean, you're constantly making adjustments on the fly. I make changes every time I either do something successful or not successful. There's always ideas that will come from people saying, hey, this is great, but, did you ever think of doing this? Or did you ever think of adding this? Or maybe we had a discussion on this. And I'll say, I never thought of that. Let's look at that, and the next year incorporate it. You can't incorporate everything, but you could certainly make changes, and that's what keeps your program fresh, and that's what keeps you successful. You can't stay the status quo. The world's moving too fast. You either move with it, or it's going to overtake you.
They're here. Yeah, I know. So, in conclusion, are you ready for the conclusion, the punchline here for the whole thing? Say yeah. All right. Amen. There we go. Can I get an amen? A Rainmaker has these qualities. Write this down. 1, they feel the dancers are more important than the dance. Did you get what I'm saying there? Any question there? I mean, I worked for clubs where the dance was more important than the people, right? The true Rainmaker is going to feel the value in the people, and the dance just is a vehicle to having fun with people. That's all it really is, right? Okay? The Rainmaker has personal connections with the dancers. Personal connections. We did a session this morning on class connections about how the caller connects personally with each of the dancers. So that might be obviously through talking to them, greeting them, thanking them, saying goodbye, but also through email, phone call, website, all those connections you have with dancers. That's what a Rainmaker has. So reach out and touch. Make sure you reach out and touch them in some way. They're willing to interact with the club directors and listen to their views. So let's say you work for a club. So you said you work for a club, and they come to you and say, hey, so-and-so, and you listen to them, and you give your opinion, and they work with you on that. So they're working with you because obviously you have a lot of influence in that club. You have a lot of influence. They invite you to the business meeting. There you go. I go to every one of my club's board meetings. I'm not, even though I'm not a voting member, I have significant influence in the club's decisions, right? Because it's very important, because obviously it matters to me. So a Rainmaker has continuity in the program. So whatever you do, you're going to have continuity. You're going to keep doing this because you're looking strategically, not 3 weeks down the road, I only got 10 people to show up. You're thinking, I got 10 people now, but I'm going to do this for 6 months because I'm going to get 20 people in 6 months because these 10 are going to bring in the next 10. And then in 12 months, I'm going to get 20 people and 30 people like that. So you have to have continuity and long-range vision. That's what a Rainmaker has. It's really thinking down the line. A Rainmaker is prepared for the next event, for any event, whatever it might be, because nobody else is going to prepare for you. That's being at effect. You need to be a cause. You need to say, I'm going to do this. I got the equipment. I got my program. I'm ready to go no matter what. And they throw something on you, and all of a sudden you're not ready. You got to be ready, no matter what happens. Because you know what? Dancers aren't professionals. They make mistakes. They make mistakes all the time, and they don't have to get it right. But you're the professional. You're the one getting paid, and you want to look really good, be ready for anything. Somebody throws a mic in your hand and say, come on, call a tip of plus right now. Okay, I wasn't ready, but I'll do it right now. Here we go. And you got to be ready for that. The Rainmaker is involved in extracurricular club activities. We talked about that, those social bonding things there. And most importantly, a Rainmaker is inspirational to the people. You've got to be inspirational to your dancers, to your club officers, to everybody else in the activity, to your other callers. You got to be inspirational. And that just comes from your love and passion for the activity and willingness to step out and try to make something happen. So these are the qualities that we think that a Rainmaker has. And we encourage you to go out and meet with other callers and make something happen. Go out there and start a class. If you haven't started one already, Sean, Brian, start a class, get a class going, try it. And before you do it, contact the CALLERLAB office. Say, hey, I'm going to start a class. What resources? Bang. They'll send you some stuff. They'll send you some winning ways. They'll connect you up with other callers who have done the same thing. But you can go out and make something happen. It's better than waiting for the existing dancers to make it happen, because a lot of clubs are not making it happen. So you need to go out and make it happen. Thank you all for coming out this afternoon. Have a great rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.